Welcome to this explainer. Today, we're diving into something we've all totally obsessed over. We're going to decode the quiet, kind of sneaky psychology behind one of the most confusing, overanalyzed moments in all of dating, the simple physical touch. If you've ever found yourself completely paralyzed by a tiny gesture, spending the entire drive home just agonizing over whether it was a huge green light or just sheer coincidence, well, you are in the exact right place. Let's get right into it.
Okay, so picture this exact scenario. You're sitting right across from her. Maybe it's over a late night coffee, or maybe you're hanging off to the side at a really loud group dinner. You say something small, just a little joke, or a minor observation, and then bam, it happens. She laughs, she leans in, and she touches your forearm for just maybe a fraction of a second longer than she really needed to. Instantly, your brain just starts spiraling, right? You're thinking, wait, did that actually mean something?
And honestly, that one tiny physical gesture, it can easily lead to like 10 straight hours of anxious guessing. We've absolutely all been there. You sit there replaying the moment on a loop in your head, texting your friends, just desperately trying to figure out if she's flirting, if she's just a wildly friendly person, or if you're, completely delusional for even noticing it in the first place. It is mentally exhausting. But listen, you're not crazy for picking up on that shift in energy. And today, we're going to break down exactly why.
So let's start with Section 1, Comfort Before Confessions. Here is the absolute truth that most of us actually get completely backwards. Genuine attraction, it usually doesn't show up first in those loud, sweeping confessions or perfect cinematic moments. It actually shows up in comfort. In the world of psychology and attachment theory, when her body physically turns towards you, they call that approach behavior. It's essentially a biological sign that her nervous system feels regulated, safe, and interested enough to, test the waters. When someone touches your arm, they aren't necessarily declaring some massive romance. They're granting permission. It's permission to build a little bridge and just see how you hold your presence when they move a tiny bit closer.
Which brings us to Section 2, the timing of touch.
Because physical contact is such a remarkably clear communicator, the intention behind the timing is literally everything. The very first thing you want to look for is a touch that has absolutely zero practical job. Seriously, almost no one talks about this part. The absolute clearest, most intentional touches are the ones she simply did not need to make. If she's just reacting to a joke or making a point in a story, physical contact isn't technically required, right? So if a touch wasn't physically necessary, you can bet it almost always served a much deeper emotional purpose. Just think about the stark difference in how reactions play out. Someone might laugh at your joke from across the table, leaning back, keeping their body totally contained in their own little bubble. But if they tap your arm while smiling, that is an entirely unnecessary gesture that silently says, hey, I want a little more connection right now than words alone can give me. It deliberately and instantly shrinks that physical and emotional distance between you two.
Okay, moving on to another huge indicator, the lingering beat. This is the half second that changes absolutely everything about an interaction. A super quick passing social touch, that can easily just be politeness, habit, or a total reflex. But a touch that stays just a beat too long, man, that fraction of a second feels incredibly heavy to the human nervous system because it carries real unspoken feeling.
Think about when someone just brushes your sleeve to squeeze past you in a crowded room. They vanish instantly. They're just completing a physical task. But when a hand lingers for a soft, unhurried beat and then pulls back slowly, while her nervous system is quietly asking, does this feel good here? She isn't just making contact for the sake of it. She's actively enjoying it and testing your physical presence. It's her body revealing a deep comfort way before her conscious mind could even explain it.
And that perfectly tees up our next point, the immense power of repetition. So often in dating, people are looking for this one massive, dramatic sign, mostly because they want absolute certainty as fast as humanly possible. But human attraction, it's rarely a single lightning strike event. It is repetition with warmth. If she keeps finding reasons to return and touch your arm, your shoulder, or your hand at different moments throughout the night, you really, really need to pay attention.
Because a one-off touch during a chaotic, loud group moment followed by totally flat, distant energy, yeah, that doesn't mean much on its own. But if she taps your arm during a laugh and then, say, an hour later brushes your shoulder as she walks past to grab a drink, that kind of recurring pattern means her body is continually experiencing contact with you as highly rewarding rather than threatening or awkward.
Moving right along to Section 3, Context and Vulnerability. So, beyond just the mechanics and the timing of it all, the emotional context in which a touch happens is huge. We tend to think of attraction as just loud banter or playful teasing and super high energy. But deeper, more sustainable interest actually shows up during vulnerable moments. Honestly, the most powerful touches are the tender, quiet ones that happen right as you share a personal story, make a small confession, or simply let your guard drop for a second. If you share something honest and real, and she just goes, "Oh wow," while keeping her posture totally rigid and staying emotionally distant, the walls are still firmly up. But if she softens her expression and gently touches your forearm right as you drop your guard, wow. She is no longer just reacting to your charm, she is deeply responding to your emotional presence. Her inner experience is registering that you aren't just talking at her, you're actually right there with her. Another fascinating thing is that sometimes touch isn't about starting a brand new connection at all. It's actually about repairing a slight drift. You know those natural lulls in conversation at dinner? Touch acts as a small bid for connection when the dialogue stalls, an interruption happens, or the energy just kind of dips temporarily. Imagine the conversation pauses, and you instinctively glance down at your phone. If she looks away and just lets the moment completely die, the connection is effectively paused. But if the moment goes quiet and she reaches out, taps your arm, and pulls your attention right back into her orbit, that is a psychologically revealing way of saying, "Stay with me." It strongly signals that she actively wants your heart and your attention to keep making room for her.
Let's wrap this up with Section 4, Recognizing Real Connection.
To really grasp what's happening in these dynamics, you have to remember that real attraction is a cluster of behaviors. It's a whole emotional atmosphere, not just isolated data points. And this right here is where people completely misread situations. They get total tunnel vision on the physical touch itself, but totally ignore what the rest of the body does immediately afterward. If someone touches your arm but then immediately crosses their arms, closes off, and turns away, yeah, that touch was likely just a random social reflex. A true green light operates as a flowing sequence. The physical touch is really just the doorway. What confirms the real attraction is the follow-through. Lingering eye contact that holds your gaze for an extra second, followed right up by an open body posture where she stays oriented toward you. She doesn't retreat back into her shell. Her presence remains fully engaged and available to you.
Ultimately, this all boils down to the nuance of preference. And honestly, this is the concept that changes absolutely everything. The real question isn't whether she happens to be a naturally touchy, expressive person in general. I mean, some people just are. The real question is exactly how her touch with you differs from her baseline with everyone else in the room. You always have to look for that baseline.
If she naturally taps everybody on the shoulder, gives out lots of hugs, and laughs equally with the entire group, you need to look for a lot more subtlety. But if her touch with you is noticeably slower, softer, more frequent, or just feels way more deeply private compared to how she treats everyone else, you are witnessing genuine personal preference. Her body is quietly communicating that you matter differently than the rest of the room. So the crucial point to take away is that meaningful contact consistently hits specific markers. It is beautifully unnecessary, it lingers, it's repeated, it's emotionally timed, it's followed by an open posture, and it's uniquely different from her baseline. When you finally learn to spot this cluster of behaviors, you shift entirely away from all that anxious, frantic guesswork. Instead, you move into calmly and confidently reading real, unspoken human connection. There is this profound truth in psychology that attraction shows up in the body long before it ever fully shows up in language. By understanding this quiet, biological communication, you realize you don't ever need to sit around waiting for a dramatic confession or a perfect movie moment. True safety and comfort will always speak through the body first. Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer. So I'll leave you with this. The very next time someone casually brushes your arm, ask yourself, are they just completing a mindless gesture, or are they silently inviting you in?